Hello and welcome everybody to the Premier March podcast. And today with me, I have none other than Dr. Brad Hughes. He needs no introduction, so we'll jump right into it. How are you, Dr. Brad?
I am good. That's the best introduction ever. I love it. You're making me feel good on a Thursday morning. No, I'm good. Excited to be here. I've wanted to talk to you for a long time. I follow your everything you do on LinkedIn, so this will be fun.
How interesting, and that's a huge compliment coming from you. So, before getting you here, I did a bit of research about, your journey and what you're doing with Vision Dental Partners and everything. So, I would like to hear from you exactly where you started. I know that you're a third generation dentist, so you come from a family of dentists, but tell us more about why you decided to become one, and then, how did you start your practice, and how did you start Vision Dental Partners?
Yeah. Gosh, this really probably that journey. So my grandfather started practicing in 1955. My grandfather, my dad, and I are all Indiana University dental school grads. Um, for me, it was really in the mid 80s, as a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 year old. Everywhere we went, my dad knew everybody, and everybody knew him on the north side of Fort Wayne, Indiana. And that really left a lasting impression on me to the point where it was like, I don't even care what the job is. I just want to do what you're doing. And that was what led me into dentistry. I think I had no idea, you know no idea really what it was about. I don't think you really do until you're into the profession. I don't care how much you're around it. I don't care how much you shadow. I don't care how much you're around offices. Until you really get going, you don't know how much of a people business it is. And but that's what drew me to it in the mid to late 80s. And graduated in 2007 from Indiana University School of Dentistry. Acquired my first practice in 2009, and kind of went on a 10-year journey to sort of get decent at it, to triple my first practice, to pay off that first practice debt, and knew that I wanted to get into the group space. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I like building things, and so 2019 acquired my second practice, and we've gone from there. We're now a 10 practice group, and we've got a couple more coming on board here in like under 2 weeks. So we just keep going.
What an interesting story. And when you talk about everybody knowing your dad, and this was before the social media era, right? So that must have been, end of the day, it all comes down to building that human connection with the people, no matter which business you're in. So tell me about the moment that you realize that you're not just a clinician or a practice owner, you're actually building an empire, building an enterprise.
Gosh, I think it was probably 20. It was probably somewhere between, I wish I could remember the exact day, but I think it was probably around 2012. I remember sitting in my consult room at Hughes Dental Group in Leo, Indiana, and like we were slowly growing, and we were moving the needle. Things were fine, but I just felt like there was way more. I felt like we had way more potential. It was just barely starting to scratch the surface of where I could get to, and what we could do from a patient experience standpoint, all of those things. And I really in that moment realized that it just came down to me and my inability to be a really effective leader, a really effective team builder. Um, and so that's what I set out to do over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years, was just be incredibly self-aware and accountable, develop the discipline around the things I needed to do to get better myself, and then to go build the best damn possible team that I could, and to create wild opportunities for them. And that's still to this day what I'm trying to do. And we're just doing it more at scale now. And that's really my passion. I can go operate a practice, I can build a practice, I can build an elite practice. I that's fun. But for me, it's really, I want to go create opportunities for hundreds of people, not just 5 or 6 or 10 or 14 people. I gain a lot of energy and a lot of excitement out of knowing that we're creating limitless opportunities for a lot of people. So I just want to do that for as many people as I can.
That's awesome. Tell me about Vision Dental Partners. I mean, I know that it's more like a doctor-led model, right? That you're building it on. So tell me about how you find the practices that you're acquiring. What is the vision behind it? We see a lot of that on through the content that you're posting online as well. But I would like to hear it from you. I mean, what led you to start a doctor-led group? I mean, it's a very non-traditional way of doing it, right?
Yeah, I don't, I could probably sound really smart and sit here and say we've got one model. There's only one way we're going to do this, but that's just not the way we operate. We're just looking for opportunity. So, when you talk about growth, yes, like we want our practices to grow, all of those things. I want partner doctors at every single practice. I want to, I really wake up every day excited to go continue to build this company, knowing that we're building something for our partner doctors. And then they need to do their job at the practice level, being leaders, great patient experience, doing all the things that they need to do. But for me, it's about finding those opportunities. It's about finding, there's really three ways that we grow. One, it's finding places to do a startup, and we've done that. Um, Two, we look for practices that are doing somewhere between four to six, $700,000. That's a doctor that maybe only wants to stick around and work for, we'll say 6, 8, 12, 18, 24 months. We're going to go find another doctor at some point in that time frame who wants to become a partner doctor in that practice and help us quadruple the size of that practice. Or three, and I'm very selective when it comes to this, only because I've screwed it up, is doing the rollover equity model. So finding a practice where the doctor wants to roll over 30% of equity, and continue to work with us for 5 to 10 more years and remain in that equity position, which again is a phenomenal way to grow net worth. It's a phenomenal way to have my unbelievable team come in and help you grow your practice. Um, but I don't have any one set model. So when we're talking acquisitions, I will go any of those three routes. We'll do a de novo. I really love the model of finding that smaller practice where the doctor wants to stick around a little while. And then we go find a partner doctor to put in there and triple or quadruple that practice. So that's kind of what we're doing externally. And internally, it's just all about culture. It's the standard is the standard. Um, Accountability for everybody. That starts with me. I need to be as open to feedback and to my team holding me as accountable as I'm going to hold them, and that's kind of how we roll.
So, how do you view Vision Dental Partners? Is it like a portfolio of strong local brands, or do you see it as a single enterprise expressed locally?
Um, right now we're individual practices trying to not trying. We're individual practices building brand in the community. We want doctors that are partner doctors becoming local legends in their community. That's through brand, not commoditization. I could see a point where as Vision Dental Partners, as a company or as an enterprise brand builds, we could do a little bit more marketing at the local level, and still attract patients. But we're doing more of that just through recruiting than anything right now, not really through for patient acquisition, but more for team acquisition at the Vision Dental Partner level. So I think we'll always be very predominantly practice level brand in the communities. That's always going to be probably 90+% of what we're doing from an actual patient acquisition model. And I'm kind of the anti-commoditization guy. I think we are incredibly commoditized in the dental space, so we will always be very practice heavy, very brand first.
Interesting. So, I mean, that explains a lot about how this model helps protect the doctor's autonomy as well, right? But when you're building a scalable platform, how do you think the tension shows up? Where do you think does it become challenging or difficult for you to consolidate everything?
If the culture is right, no. I think it just all comes back to that. I think that when you will we eventually run out of runway for me to go to a bank and get bank lending? Sure. Will we eventually have to bring on some level of strategic partner? Yes. I'm not going to do that a day before I have to. But I think that if you have a company that's well run, is financially sound, has good culture, you have an investable business. And I don't think there's any one way to do that as long as you have those components in place, whether you're very top heavy brand dominant or your practice level brand dominant. I think as long as your culture is good, you've built brand, you're not a commodity, you're financially sound, you have an investable business. And I think that um, not only through the brands that we will build at the practice level, but also through my own personal brand, I think that it will make the company very valuable at one point.
Okay, so when you speak about building a brand, right, and we know that you have a strong personal brand, and to a certain extent, I'm sure that helps. But how does that impact the overall group? I mean, if you're stepping away for a couple of days, how involved are you personally in all of this? Is it anything that takes a hit if you're away, or is it working independently?
Um, I'm pretty involved, but that doesn't mean that if I'm not around for a few days, like things just operate as normal. I mean, we have an incredible management team from Jason, Mikkel, Jenna, Lex, um, Desiree. I mean, these guys all work their butts off and all understand the why. All are incredibly aligned, great individuals in the correct seat on the bus. And so, if I'm not available for a couple days, and that doesn't happen very often, but look, like I have a wife, I have kids, we go travel sometimes. I need, I have a life. So, if I'm a little less available, I don't know that I'm ever not available. If I'm ever a little less available, things just continue on. And that also makes it, I think, something that will have value in the long run. We're not completely dependent on
Mm.
me. And I think that's a big, big deal. But I am very involved. I am very involved from a doctor coaching standpoint. I'm very involved in operations. I am very involved in the culture aspect of this company because I do have high expectations. I have a high standard just because I hold myself to that level.
That brings me to a very interesting question, and we see this a lot in the dental space. One of the biggest stress factors is when the doctors or the group owners are not able to distance themselves from the immediate operations, right? That is the huge and that is also a huge risk factor on the EBITDA. It takes a hit on your valuation as well, right? So, for anyone listening out there, what are the top three things you would tell them to do in order to make sure that, the practice is not primarily dependent on them? They're not carrying the weight on their own shoulders, and the practice is running as an automated, well-oiled engine, or the group. I
Um,
mean.
you know, I, I like the term well-oiled. I don't know if we're well-oiled.
Hmm.
There's shit to put out there's shit fires to put out every single day. It sometimes it makes me laugh. Um, but but I think the key in that is exactly what I just said. Like you've got to build team. You've got
Mhm.
to be able to have people that you can delegate to, and that stuff is going to happen, or that thing is going to be taken care of, or that there's a lot of things that my team does that I have no idea ever happens. I don't
Mhm.
micromanage. I mean, there are plenty of times where I do need to get involved, and it's like, this is the decision, this is what we need to go execute on, let's go do it. But there's a lot of things on the daily, I would say most things, they just understand the core values, they understand where we're going, they understand the standard, and all of their decisions are based on those. And as long as that's the case, I don't really have to worry about it. And that doesn't mean anybody gets it right all the time. I certainly do not, but they do get it right a majority of the time, and that's the most important thing. And um, so if you're the one thing is just set the standard and don't deviate. You
Mhm.
cannot lower the bar just because other people want you to. And I think we see that all the time in the dental space, and it's why we're in this position, and it's why there's so much of a commoditization, and it's why there's so much complacency in dentistry. And we've got to fight back against that. And it's actually better for the patients, it's better for teams, it's better for the overall brand of the entire dental space. So set the standard, and what you allow will be your culture. So act accordingly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There should be no compromise on that. So Dr. Brad, tell me about when you're going out and looking for practices to acquire. Before that, even let's come to this. Do you have owners reaching out to you, or do you identify which practices you want to take to the next level?
It's a lot of both. Um, we do have a lot of people reach out to me through different platforms, through Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. Um, those are probably the main three. And sometimes it's just because, hey, I'm struggling with this in my practice. Do you have 30 minutes? I just want to ask you a question. Like, I love that. I think there's a
Hmm.
ton of value because I've probably gone through the same thing. And it's like, look, let's just talk through this. From an acquisition standpoint, we do have a lot of people reach out, which is awesome. Um, we also have a lot of doctors that reach out and say, "Hey, I'm kind of hitting my head on the ceiling with this group or this practice I'm in. I've been doing it for 4 years. I'm ready to bet on myself. I want to be a partner doctor. Here's where I'm at. Do you have any practices near there? Or, you know, I'm in Orlando. I know you have a practice in Tampa. I'm willing to work over there, or commute over there, or move over there, or whatever." So, um, I love that because those are people who know my content, understand the mindset, and those are some of the most aligned, hardworking people on earth, and they do unbelievably well in this company and just build real net worth and do a phenomenal job for the patients. So, yeah, we get a good mix of people that reach out, which is honestly the best part of my day. I love those conversations.
And when you're looking for, so when you already have like a group of 9 practices, right? What differentiates the ones that are doing exceptionally well from the ones that are still struggling?
Yeah. Um, well, we have 10 practices, by the way.
Oh, 10 now. Congratulations. I saw that on Instagram. Totally slipped my mind.
It's I know I'm giving you a hard time, but one thing, the ones that do well are have doctor-led leadership. That's it. That's it. It's
Mhm.
like it doesn't matter how great, because here's where everybody kind of gets this wrong. And I was talking to a phenomenal guy last week. Um, one of the co-founders of a 17 practice group, and it was one of the first things that he said. He's like, the practices that do well just have great doctors.
Mhm.
and and it doesn't mean that they're clinically amazing. It just means that they're doctor-led leadership, and I could not
Mhm.
agree more. Every practice in America that's above average or elite has doctor-led leadership, and it doesn't matter what procedures they do. It doesn't matter any of that. It's, can they lead a team? Are they charismatic enough for patients to build phenomenal relationships with? Um, and they have great soft skills. And when you have that, the systems and the practices are all the same, by the way. So why does one practice do double what the other one does? It's just
Mhm.
doctor-led leadership. That's it. And
Mhm.
and it's so undervalued, and it's so not talked about enough. It's like people act like, you know, they'll have 30 they'll have 40 practices and 20 do great and 20 don't, and they're like, "Well, we just don't understand what the magic sauce is." Like, it's the top dog in the practice. It is the
Mhm.
doctor. The 20 that are doing great, doctor-led leadership. The 20 that aren't, I assure you that regional manager or somebody in operations is in there every week trying to figure out the problem, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And I just told them the problem. Some listen, some don't.
Yeah. Okay. And when out of the 10 in the group, when you see one that's standing out, do you take
Anyhow,
doing exceptionally well and try and replicate that across the rest of the 9 practices as well? Or is it something
got it.
that you'd rather have the doctor or the team take control of?
No, I mean, I'm pretty involved in that, but it's so clear. It's never been more clear to me that, like, the reason that those practices stand out
Mhm.
is exactly what we just said. Like, there is
Yeah.
no there is no going in and trying to do anything different in the practices that don't do as well, because I know the difference. I know that the standards are the same, the systems are the same. It's just that the ones that do well, we have doctors that are running those morning huddles in an appropriate fashion. They're bringing the standard in every day. They are great core value fits. They are holding their team accountable. They're holding themselves accountable. They are disciplined. They are charismatic. They have incredible soft skills. They, all of the things. And the ones that are just, we'll say above average or average, um, you got to push them a little harder. There's a little more complacency there. Um, the energy level's not as high. It's maybe not as charismatic of a doctor.
Mm.
So, those are the things where we just sit down and we continue to coach on soft skills. We continue to build skills around that, not, and I'm not like that's a big part of what I do, like answering the phones and, you know, correct handoffs, things like that. Like I'm a little involved in that, but my team handles a lot of that and they're great at it. But my big thing is like let's build soft skills with the doctors and those that really buy in and practice and practice and practice and get better, see the
Mm.
results. And those that don't usually end up with very average practices.
Mm. Dr. Brad, what are the top three profit leaks that you see in a practice that make you walk away from a deal?
Ego is a big one.
Mm.
If the doctor has their own parking spot with like a sign that says doctor parking only, I'm running the other direction. That is not somebody I want to do business with. It is not somebody whose practice is ever going to grow. It is not somebody who we're going to build an incredible team around. Um, that's a big red flag. And I sort of kiddingly say that like, but that's like I'm dead serious. I have run into that and we do not play that game. Um, yeah, I think if the doctor cannot sit down and have a conversation around where we want this practice to be 12 months from now and sort of align on that, if it's just going to be status quo, complacency, that's probably not going to work. Um, And the third thing is just the recruitability of the practice. Where is it located? There's been a large population shift over the last, I mean, post-COVID for sure, but let's call it the last 15 or 20 years. Lifestyle has become a much bigger deal for a lot of dentists. And, so recruiting somebody into an area that they can do very well, they can be financially secure, they can sleep very well at night. It's just different now. So many people want to live where they can have great restaurants and shopping and sports.
Mm.
So I'm more moving that model towards more metropolitan areas
Mm.
because I think the recruiting is a little bit better. So that becomes one as well. Like we have a lot of practices, doctors come to us and they're like, "This is a great office. Let's, I'd love to work with you guys." And you're like, "Yeah, but you're an hour outside of Charlotte." It's like
Mm.
may not be the most recruitable spot on earth. Nobody's living in the suburbs of Charlotte and driving 50 minutes out to this practice to work. And an hour is like you're not going to dinner date night on a Saturday night and driving an hour each way. So that I think is a big deal. I'm very adamant around the fact that I'm only looking in very highly recruitable areas now.
That's very interesting because from all the research that I've done, and I also hear from a lot of different sources as well, that people tend to think that suburban areas are more profitable. That's they have more scope because you have the dentist to population ratio is very favorable for the practice.
I'm all about suburbia. Like if you're
Mm.
20 minutes outside of Charlotte or Chicago or Tampa, great. But an hour,
Mm.
I'm calling that the sticks. Like that is
That's
no
far too
longer suburbia. That is like, you
too far
know,
out. Yeah,
it's a little too far out. And,
yeah.
I also think that there's a lot of bias around, I'm really agnostic to where there are plenty of practices that are probably downtown New York City that are way more profitable than some suburban practices outside of the city or outside of Atlanta or outside of Chicago. And again, it just depends on the doctor. It depends on the soft skills. It depends on the team they've built. It depends on the brand they've built, all of those things. So, um, I do think people get a little wrapped up in, you know, it's too saturated or, some of this BS stuff. At the end of the day, if you're good, patients will find you.
Okay, another important question that just came to my mind is that which metric did you overvalue when you started your first ever practice that you now think does not matter as much, you know?
God, that's so good.
Mhm.
So good. Uh, the one statistic that I think gets overvalued. I'm just gonna go with total collection number. I think that people get really wrapped up in that sexy number of like, oh, we're doing 1,000,007. That's great. But if you're gonna go acquire that practice, can you make that practice a $2.5 million practice? Because if you can't, and you bought it for, I don't know, let's say 1,000,003 or something, you got 1,000,003 bank loan and 7% or whatever the heck interest, you're getting on that, like you're not cash flowing much. You've got to be able to go build that practice. So that's why I love a practice that's doing 600 that I can double in 18 months. Like find opportunities, not just something that you think, hey, because if you're just going to keep it status quo, you're going to struggle from a cash flow standpoint. And at the end of the day,
Mm.
cash flow is everything.
Absolutely. Before we close with one last question, I want to ask you that the level and the scale that you're at right now, you're at 10 practice group, right? What's the biggest challenge you have that you feel, you know, that overshadows everything else? Is it, or if I may rephrase it, what's the real bottleneck? Is it talent, capital, integration, or just the leadership bandwidth?
It's just culture. It's getting everybody to understand that they need to focus on, for some of them, it's one patient at a time and just stack one patient at a time, one patient at a time, one patient at a time. For some of them that have moved past, quote, one patient at a time, it's now stack one day at a time.
Mm.
Stack a great Monday on top of a great Tuesday, on top of a great Wednesday, on top of, I mean, I think the everybody talks about consistency. The thing I run into more than anything is consistently inconsistent. You can be wildly consistent, but you only show up every Tuesday. Well, that's very consistent, but doesn't mean you're consistently good. So I need days stacked on top of other days. And I think that's what made me very successful for the first, I guess I've been at this over 18 and a half years, is I had to learn very early on, stack Monday and then do it Tuesday and then do it Wednesday, do it Thursday. Now repeat it and start stacking weeks on top of each other and then start stacking months and then quarters and then years. And that's how you're successful. But most people just need to start at one patient at a time. They're thinking a little too far down the road. They're thinking a little too macro. Just one patient. Your only patient is Jane right now.
Mm.
Be as influential with Jane as you possibly can, and then learn from that. And then go see John, and then go see Jackie, and then just one patient at a time, and just start stacking wins and learning to be incredibly influential. And you can get very good at this game, but man, it just takes time. And I think lack of patience with a C is a real problem. So just stack wins, stack days.
Oh, I love that advice. I think it's great perseverance. I think that's what a lot of people lack in the beginning. They think that it's a quick, rich scheme, a quick win scheme. That's not what happens. I mean, it doesn't happen anywhere in any industry, in any business. So slow down, take a breath, and just define your goals before you take that first step towards them.
Yep.
Dr. Dry, it was lovely having you here. Before we close off, tell me about the biggest leadership lesson that you learned the hard way.
Uh, that's easy. You cannot do good business with bad people.
Hmm.
And I know that's not me. That's Warren Buffett, and his version may be a little different than that. But you've got to have people who are aligned. Ego has no place in business, and will kill relationships. It will kill deals, and you know you got to have people who are going to share your mindset if you're going to move downstream together.
Hmm. Love that advice. On that note, I'm going to call it a day and turn off the recording.